Hey everybody, welcome back to another round of Baldies Deliberations. We got some minor categories. We're gonna try to. Well, I don't know if they're minor categories. Are there any small categories in the Baldies, Jim?
No, only huge losers.
Only huge losers. So we got some stuff here. Let's go ahead and put this in some sort of ordered list.
Yes, a numbered list.
Doom Patrol Season 3. Are we doing
to the top or?
Yeah, I think we're doing to the top.
Okay.
I think this is a float for me. I don't have especially animosity. It's just it was just disappointing. This might be a lot because I don't have a lot of heat for a lot of these. Mosquito Coast.
That's pretty disappointing.
It's pretty disappointing. I'm not. Do you feel like it needs to go to the top?
I mean, above Doom Patrol, which I haven't seen, of course, but...
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Cowboy Bebop, can I say to the bottom? Because I did not find this disappointing.
No, I wasn't hugely disappointed either. I felt like it got a bad rap.
The rare to the bottom where that's good.
Right.
The Book of Boba Fett.
To the top, man. Yeah.
What the fuck? Army of the Dead.
That's a Zack Snyder. Yeah.
Okay, you floating or sinking.
I think this is only on there so I could talk about what a piece of shit this is again. Because like I didn't have high expectations, right? I thought, okay, this might be right in Zack Snyder's wheelhouse where he can just go crazy and have fun with a zombie movie in Las Vegas, and it'll be just this wild ride. And it turned out to be just nothing like what I had hoped it would be. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed. I was definitely like, it's Zack Snyder, so how disappointed can you be, right? You know, he's gonna make a couple of turds, mostly turds.
The float to the top. These turds float to the top, or these dense turds, the kind of turds that sink to the bottom.
I think they're bobbing. They're bobbing. Every once in a while, poke their head to the top, but not quite above Mosquito Coast.
All right, so there's floating, but not to the top. There's kind of floating in the middle of the toilet bowl water column. Yeah. The green. Oh, are you trying to get us killed? Like, what are we doing to these next two? The Green Knight and Pig. These don't.
Okay, so the Green Knight is disappointing to me. Pig is disappointing to you because I loved Pig.
Okay, I'm saying send us to the bottom. Do you? I mean, how passionately? So what were you? So this ad can't. Okay. To the top or to the bottom. What are we doing here?
I mean, the trailer made this look super cool, and
yeah, I'm trying not to get into full analysis yet.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I mean, for me, yeah, because this is a tough one, right? Because you like this movie, I did not.
But the thing is do you watch this movie if they advertised it not like a Marvel movie?
Probably
Would you have gone
not.
in?
No.
Okay. And you did not. You hated it.
I didn't hate it. The pacing of this movie. Just the. It's not even the pacing of the movie itself. It's the. I don't know. This movie moves like an iceberg.
Yeah, I mean the line between boring and absorbing, I don't like, because to me this movie was engrossing and absorbing, and
yeah,
it was
crossed
just
the line for me.
Yeah. So is that a float?
I mean, this is not going to make it probably to the top or bottom because we feel differently about both of these next two. But yeah, right. Probably float.
Pig.
I like
again.
Pig.
I think I'd have seen Pig with no fanfare and been like, you know what? Nick Cage gave a shit about a movie, and they did it in like an A24 style. You know, that kind of like sheen of legitimacy, and that's good for him. But I came into this movie, people telling me this is the best work Nick Cage has ever done,
and this is like John Wick, right?
It's like John Wick. It's an avant with a pig, etc. And it's an avant-garde filmmaker who's right out of film school, and he's blowing the world away with the crazy shit he showed. And it's a well-shot, it's a gorgeously shot film, completely paint by numbers, with an engaged Nick Cage. And a plot that I don't know. To me, this would have been a treat to discover. Instead, I found a bunch of people trying to talk it up into an Oscar campaign. Nick, get the fuck out of here. But like,
see, when you
I
say
don't hate it.
When you say paint by numbers, I say extremely well constructed. Like it is a movie that is immaculately constructed, like a fancy chef's plate of food, right? Like that's the whole thing. It is.
I was expecting something like The Green Knight applied to a John Wick, Nick Cage film.
Yeah, the expectation. But it didn't disappoint me, right? Like it was totally different than what I expected it to be, but it still was very good for me. So I wasn't disappointed by it. It was just, I was surprised by it, I guess.
So I guess it's another floater because like my antipathy, which is not that strong, and your, I guess you love this movie, would you say?
Love is pretty strong. There are movies I love. This is not in that category. This is a movie I liked a lot, but...
All right, we're going to have to quantify our hatred and love for these two movies. Let's move on to Mini Saints and Newark, because to me, this goes to the top.
Yeah.
I did not like this. It's not a bad film, but I did not like it. Losing Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you didn't know, we had this thing called Sci-Fi Sunday every Sunday on twitch.tv/baldmove. Still doing it. It's called Cinematic Sunday because we dropped a sci-fi in large part because Amazon dropped, now this is something they're forced into, but they dropped the Next Generation, all the Star Trek catalog from the Watch Party free Amazon library thing. It's like if you don't have Paramount Plus, you don't have Star Trek Next Generation anymore, right?
I think that's true, yeah. As far as
this is an intolerable blow for the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it really, it just seems like every time we find something we really like we had a good core group of people enjoying Star Trek Next Generation, a lot of them for the first time, a little bit ironically, and it's gone. And this goes to the top.
Yeah, I mean, if bald move moments can count as disappointing, this is a big one.
Witcher 2? I think I'm gonna float that one. I don't hate Witcher 2. It's just kind of long. I'll talk more about it when we get down to brass tacks here. Eternals? Does that go to the top?
Yeah. If I had higher expectations, if it was a known property, but
how about Black Widow?
It's higher than Eternals actually, because Black Widow is like a main Avenger, right? You expect that movie to be incredible when she finally gets her due. And it just kind of wasn't.
Died canonically, yeah. So what do we think?
Yeah, I would say to the top. I don't think it'll stay at the top, but
all right, taking it to the top. Don't Look Up. This is the Sky Is Falling climate movie.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio doing his climate thing. You expect kind of a good movie, and I turned this off halfway through because it sucked.
It's a climate parable, right? Or a climate...
it's a satire, for sure.
Satire, yeah. A fable. Because it's all about an asteroid coming down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard this is a big piece of shit from people I respected in like an entirely different way than... But I don't know. Like
it's hard to describe why it's bad. It's just bad.
It's like they had nothing new to add from like Inconvenient Truth. And like at this point, the only reason I would not hate a movie like this is if it was moving the needle and getting people to talk about it. But even like it didn't do an effective job of preaching to the choir. It didn't do an effective job of motivating its base. Like not only did it not move the needle in public opinion, it like... You know, I'd like...
It's not contributing to the argument.
Fucking coastal liberals were rolling coal after they watched this movie. They just like, there's such a fatalism, a nihilism that was engendered by it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does this go to the top?
I didn't have any expectations for it is the thing. I went in knowing that like people said this is bad, so no.
All right. And then we have a shining example of Sundance sci-fi. High Life starring Robert Pattinson. I was excited for this movie. like a highbrow sci-fi with the new Batman. There was this tantalizing concept of a masturbation box that the crew used to sustain themselves through the long voyage of space to manage their sexual desires, and like that was going to be some kind of cool... And this was one of the most boring watch parties like the slaughter. Like I think 90,000 people showed up in the arena, and we were hard pressed to get 45,000 across the finish line. This is like one of the most brutal performances of a sci-fi Sunday. Yeah. I think it's got to go to the top.
Sure, I can see it going to the top for now.
It's not going to stay there. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got stuff in rough rank. Let's talk about this. High Life going head to head against Black Widow. Which is more disappointing?
Probably Black Widow, because it's been built up for 10 years, and High Life was just like a blurb from Amazon that I read and was like, that could be interesting. High Life has Robert Pattinson in it, which, coming off of Lighthouse, I was very much excited about. I thought, yeah, Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse in space, fuck yeah, let's do this. And then it was just weird.
Do you know what it felt like? Do you know that you know, one of our space shuttles blew up in the 80s, and we're like, oh fuck, we need a new space shuttle, and NASA looks and is like, we got like a spare space frame and a couple of these and a couple, like, you know, some production spares, and we're gonna cobble it all together and boom, Endeavor. That's what the Black Widow felt like. That, like, there was a whole bunch of discarded action scenes and character beats and stuff that they've been kicking around. And it's like, you know what? Let's just It felt like if this was an hour longer, they could have chopped it up into 6 parts and made it into an MCU Disney Plus show.
She's already dead. Who cares? Let's just cobble this thing together, make some money, and get out. Yeah,
it felt more like a launch pad for Florence the Pugh than it did for, which is great, but
she's like, the only reason this isn't like an obvious shitty movie. Like I don't know. I really enjoyed her performance.
The sister performance. I like David Harbour. It's just like this felt like this should have happened 3-4 years ago instead of being an afterthought that they're trying to catch up on. And yeah, it's just really disappointing. The action was ugly, kind of boring. Just not it. So is losing Star Trek: The Next Generation more disappointing than High Life? I say yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we'd at least get through Star Trek. I think if we had one more year, we would have gotten through it. We would have gotten through the whole series.
Yeah, we were halfway through season 5, right?
Yeah.
We're really
is it more disappointing than Black Widow? I say yes.
Yeah, I agree.
The only reason it might not win is because I kind of knew it was coming. As soon as Paramount Plus came out, I'm like, oh, it's just a matter of time before they yanked the leash on all these. Because Star Trek was omnipresent. You could watch it on like Netflix and Amazon and like Hulu. Like there's multiple ways to get it. What do you think about Mini Saints in Newark?
So I know you were super disappointed because you had been watching The Sopranos in a lead up to that, like sprinting through Sopranos. And I haven't seen Sopranos,
which I loved,
in over a decade probably. And so I was watching this more as just like a straight gangster movie. And I think it worked a little bit better as a straight gangster movie, although the edges of it are like sanded off because you're not really aware of all the characters and everything. I mean, I know who Junior is. I know who Tony Soprano would be as a teenager, right? Like all these things. So I didn't find it like incredibly disappointing. It was a mediocre to okay gangster movie.
I mean, I think that's the problem. If this was just like a gangster movie, like a low budget indie gangster, you know, like a reflection on a particular time and a place, I would have been fine. But I probably wouldn't have watched it.
That's the thing.
It would have been like, you know, if you're really hard up for a high end boutique gangster thing, then do it. But like the Sopranos pedigree and watching all of the Sopranos. And like being like, oh man, this show kind of holds up and still is maybe even more relevant than it was when it first came out 20 years ago in terms of like what it says about where we're at in America, etc. And the characters are so great and indelible, and you know the James Gandolfini's son playing, it's like, my God, how can this not? And I read Alan Sepinwall's like really loving, you know, clearly passionate coverage of it, and but I'm like, he's not saying much about the end product. And the end product is just like the last 15 minutes of this, it starts to get a pulse, but it's so boring. And that's not what The Sopranos are. The Sopranos are not boring.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe more disappointing than Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, I was going to put it at 2, but I could see it if you blitzed through Sopranos right before this.
I expected Star Trek to be ripped from us, and I expected Sopranos to be. I expected Many Saints in Newark to be kind of amazing,
and like one of those things happened, one did not. Yeah.
So like it's like it blunts the disappointment and it increases on the other thing. So I might come back to this. All right,
Book this is the Fett. One, man. Book of Boba Fett needs to go to the top for me.
To the tippy top.
Here's the thing. I was hoping that Disney would have some balls and make a gritty bounty hunter story here. And I can't imagine doing a worse job of Boba Fett as a character. It had a moment or two where like, okay, his interactions with the Sand People here are interesting. But after that, it fucking just completely derailed. Half the show is not even Boba Fett. Half the show is Mando. Like they didn't know what to do with Boba Fett, and they needed to make a show apparently, and so they just fucking, I don't know, let's make half of this Mando season 3, and we'll figure out what to do with Boba Fett in season 2.
Dude, it's so insulting that Boba Fett got muscled out of his own show. I don't know what Robert Rodriguez is thinking. I thought he would be a good fit for this franchise, but he had like some of the most Rodriguez-ian things were the most egregious stuff. Like his most Espa biker gang that looked like it's straight out of Spy Kids.
It was shit.
Bad. Inability to have for Boba Fett to be the biggest like Boba Fett was almost the biggest badass in last season of The Mandalorian, and then like I don't know whether they're like making it up to The Mandalorian, like okay, well he took over your show, so now you take, but he did a much more comprehensive job, and I liked some of the Mandalorian stuff in the middle, but it's just like it just became The Mandalorian show, right? And there was some good stuff, but what a schizophrenic piece of shit this season was.
But the Book of Boba Fett is a goddamn mess. It's bad. It's very bad. And I was hyped. I mean, you see the trailer, you see the teaser at the end of Mando season 2, and you're like, fuck yeah, this is going to finally be the adult story that I'm looking for out of one of the most, fabled characters in the entirety of Star Wars. And it just sucked.
And it was I got excited because Tamura Morrison got into good shape because he was a little bloated, Bubba Fett, a little too Bubba Fett in season 2 of Mandalorian, and I like looked at and everything looked so good, and even like with the promise of the Rancor and how that was fulfilled, it just. Gee whiz, is too little too late at the end of the season, and it's one of those things that Rick really. I don't have like on my mind, Disney's batting like 30% at best on these Marvel Star Wars shows. And there needs to be more. It needs to be more. Mosquito Coast. I don't know. Like I love the movie. I love the Harrison Ford River Phoenix movie.
I love Justin Theroux.
I love Justin Theroux. I thought it had the makings of a brilliant remake, but something got lost in the bloat and the modernization, and the thing is, I didn't watch it I didn't finish it because no one was saying it was getting better. In fact, I think Sepinwall is like it's kind of like starts off as strong as it's ever going to be, and kind of so like I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I don't know, but like I didn't see the whole thing, so I don't really want to get on my soapbox about it. And I watched. I don't know. Do you want to put it over High Life? Because
I mean, probably, yeah. Just because High Life is this one-off thing. I don't know. I watched 3 episodes of Mosquito Coast. I felt like this show had an agenda, and I'm fine with shows that have an agenda sometimes, but the only way they knew how to express it was with wild monologues from the main character, who would just go on tirades for minutes at a time, and just came off as an insane person, which is maybe what they were going for. It just didn't work for me at all. And I'd stopped watching it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, the movie definitely follows that pattern too, but like it becomes its own thing when they get into the jungle and they get off the grid and there's little Swiss Family Robinson, and then this guy, this blowhard kind of combination Luddite / I don't know, Mr. Wizard, like him coming into hardcore reality, things that he can't control. And
maybe they were getting there. Maybe it's just a case of a series is not the format for this story, right?
Maybe
like it takes too long to get to the parts that you're going to care about.
Doom Patrol season 3. Man, I don't know what the hell. This feels like a Mr. Robot season 2. If you remember, like our theory on that is Sam Esmail had a really crackerjack start, and he kind of knew he had a really great end in mind, but there wasn't enough material for season 2, like that in the breaking everything out. Like there just wasn't enough to fill the time and make it interesting. And the plot twist didn't kind of like enthrall, and it was kind of obvious, and it just didn't work. And season 3 of the Doom Patrol felt like this to me, because the first 2 episodes I was really into, but those were essentially the episodes that were supposed to be at the end of last season, and COVID kind of shut things down, so they decided to kind of make it into a cliffhanger and like punt it. So there was this like whiplash of like this super exciting like resolution of this climax and denouement that was felt satisfying, and then another season started. And this was a season of like these like kind of people all feeling kind of sorry for themselves. There's this kind of confusing time travel plot line added to it. Was not nearly as much fun and like hilarity as some of the like it started getting that kind of like DC seriousness where everything was just kind of, everyone's dealing with these really traumatic events and addictions and cycles of abuse. And it's just like, oh my God, like, that's fine, but this show used to be hilarious, and about 300-foot cockroaches taking over the world and shit like that, and Alan Tudyk being a maniac. So it's super disappointing, but to me it's like it's probably in a below the Mini Saints in Newark, because Doom Patrol's always it's always got the excuse of like, well, we're just a dumb DC low budget DC show with Brendan Fraser in a robot suit,
Sure.
So it can't be that disappointing. It'd be like if, but I guess if season 3 of Harley Quinn comes out and it sucks, I'd be really disappointed in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Harley Quinn's great. I kind of feel the same way about Army of the Dead. It's a Zack Snyder project. How disappointed can you actually be in a Zack Snyder project? But I felt like this was his wheelhouse, right? I love Dawn of the Dead remake that he did, but this seemed like, okay, Zack Snyder loves to go big, he loves to go crazy, balls to the wall. Zombies in Vegas, how much fun can you have with that? A ton of fun. Oh, no, here we go. I'll say you're muted.
Go ahead. I'm looking into Zack Snyder to make a point here.
Yeah, Watchmen and Dawn of the Dead are like the only 2 things he's ever done that I've liked. So 300's good. Anyway,
it was good for the time, yeah.
And like the trailer was awesome, right? It seemed like so much fun. It had this fucking zombie tiger that they were teasing, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be badass, man. And then I get into it, and it's not funny. Like the comedy in this movie is the joke, which is a bad sign.
Oof.
They had like one dude who was even kind of funny. The rest were telling all the jokes, and it was shit. Dave Bautista has this relationship with his daughter that they try and make the central crux of the movie, and it almost gets there emotionally, but there's so many things around the edges that are just like, oh God, this is so dumb that it ultimately can't. The tiger is so poorly, like it's So it comes in, it like stalks them for a second and leaves, and then doesn't come back in until the very end of the movie, where it just kind of comes out of nowhere and eats a character or whatever. And the character that gets eaten in that scene is awesome, but there's literally nothing else with this tiger in it. It's like 2 scenes, and it's just like very quick. They had this like undead queen or some shit plot line that was going, that was just stupid. It was just really bad, and it was like stalking. There was you're muted.
It's undead queen or some shit.
Undead queen or some shit. Yeah, I didn't like it. It wasn't funny. It wasn't good. The emotional shit did not ring true to me. None of this movie was good. Was Dave Bautista good? Like, he sounds like it was badly written. He's
situation,
mediocre.
But
I could take or leave.
I really want him to be good.
Is he a good actor? I guess I don't know. He's a good comedic actor. I don't know if he's a good dramatic actor yet.
He's good at being Drax. He'd be great in a Fast and Furious. I thought he showed some promise in Blade Runner.
Okay.
When he plays the replicant that's been on the, with the wireframe glasses, playing against type, I kind of like the Hank McCoy kind of like brawny, brainy guy. I thought maybe he could pull that off.
Yeah, maybe if he's in a better movie. I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say this is just a shit movie. Because, he was doing nothing for me in this.
So what does that do? Does that get us over Mosquito Coast? Does it get us over Black Widow?
I mean, yeah, I can go to number 5 for this. But
just
probably no higher.
Black Widow. Okay.
I think these probably stay near the bottom.
Yeah, but I think The Witcher goes above Green Knight for me, because again, I didn't find the Green Knight disappointing, and The Witcher is another kind of a Doom Patrol season 3 where I felt like there was only about 5 pounds of shit to stuff into a 10-pound bag, or it's one of those things where
bag,
Yeah, you get a bag of chips, like, oh man, I got this party-sized thing of barbecues late, and you open it up, and it's like, what the fuck? 2/3 of it's, I understand that's for shipping purposes. You don't want it full. You don't want but that's, it's like this. It's so weird because they had bigger monster fights, but far less frequent ones. So it's probably the same amount of budget, but last year was just can't be fun. Every episode is this kind of X-Files thing where, Superman's going out there with a silver sword and he's vanquishing bad guys, and there's some creepy one-shot vampire in a castle things, and some really interesting stuff with the djinn and the character work. And this, I don't know, a big part of it is I think several of the magical characters had plot reasons to be depowered, and they didn't want to just deal with that in a first half of a season and go on, but it also left a lot of the heavy hitters kind of on the sidelines, unable to do anything cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about the Ciri. She's a major character. I don't know if she's up to carrying the load here either. I was so
sexy
fucking
enough.
Wasn't, man, there wasn't any sex appeal in this season. Not even Geralt sitting there naked in the tub or nothing. They didn't have it as good action. It's just I was so hyped for this, all Christmas vacation long. Oh man, I'm gonna get off work.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Witcher's going to drop. Me and Alexis, your wife, were excited about talking. Has she even seen it?
I don't think so.
It's, man, nobody talked about it. They did some things I liked in terms of they cleaned up the MILF Guardians, their butthole armor now looks cool. Some of the world building stuff was kind of neat.
Is it armor made of buttholes, or is it armor protecting your butthole?
It's armor made of buttholes. Yeah, they
okay.
They took a whole bunch of buttholes, they tanned them, they stitched them together, and they boiled them, put them over mail. Yeah, I it's super disappointing.
I have not seen this.
I think it's more disappointing than, but we're just going with the top 5, right? So it doesn't get out of the top. It doesn't get out of the top. It doesn't get into the top 5, and then I think Eternals I don't know, man. I feel
this is only disappointing because the name Marvel is attached, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, who gives a fuck?
That is not nothing, because like if Guardians had cratered, I'd be like, oh well, it's an unproven quantity. I was like, you know what, Marvel can make anything good. That's not true. That's not true.
Not true. Yeah, Eternals is bad.
Especially this big group. Introducing them all, making you care about them.
All the fun out of a movie like this. Like Marvel's movies are fun above all else, right? And the jokes are bad in this. No, none of the characters are fun or funny. Even Kumail Nanjiani is not funny in this movie. How do you make Kumail not funny? The only guy who is his sidekick, his director or whoever he is, cinematographer.
It just is a poorly thought out franchise. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It felt like almost Captain Planet adaptation tier. Yeah. Like this is just a series that it wasn't Jack Kirby and Jesus. What's his face? Excelsior guy.
Stan Lee,
thank you. It's not their best work, if that's in fact who worked it up. Kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with this. If you want to put Pig over the Green Knight,
I don't.
Or no,
care.
if you want to put Green Knight over the Pig, but I think we got a good top. Are we happy with Book of Boba Fett losing Star Trek to Amazon or to Paramount? Many Saints of Newark, Doom Patrol, Army of the Dead.
Yeah, that looks like a good list to me.
All right, should we keep going?
Yeah, let's do it if you got time.
Yeah, I actually have. I don't have to leave till 2:30 today, so I've got another 40 minutes.
Okay.
Best debut pilot.
Ooh-wee. This one might take
Foundation. I don't know why we're putting season 1, because it's just a season 1.
Well, yeah, you're right.
To the top. It's there, right?
To denote whether this is a limited series or a full-on series, I don't know. Yeah, to the top. Foundation.
Hacks.
Great. Nah.
I almost want to hack. I almost want to. Well, the pilot was pretty good. I like the pilot. It's it's fine. The series didn't live up to the promise of the pilot, or didn't say anything really kind of new or interesting. But I'm fine with floating it.
So I guess that's a question. How do we judge these? If because Hacks is going to get a season 2, right? So do we judge the pilot or do we judge the season? Because I felt like judging the pilot was for things that are limited series that aren't coming back.
I think it's a fine line. I think there's I think that this has always been up to interpretation. To me, if Hacks had like a Breaking Bad-esque, that to my mind, I always think of like best pilots I've ever seen. Breaking Bad.
Sure.
Like it grabs you by the balls. It then takes you back and builds the character, and then puts an exclamation point at the end, and it's like a fucking full hour, and it feels like it's 30 minutes long.
Yeah,
that is a hell of a pilot. So Hacks, I think, had a good pilot. It was just an okay debut.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what do we do with that? I think we float it, because
I'll float.
Yeah, I'm not here
There's
to
stuff on
shit
here
on
that's
things.
better anyway.
Reservation Dogs to the top.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
And I will say that this was a particularly good pilot, because it introduced so many great things about the world, about the essential comedy, about the weirdness of the res and the characters. I and like the twin rappers on their bicycles, like the rival gang, even the darkness that they delve into later on, like it's all there in this first episode.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great debut, and an even better pilot. Schmigadoon is exactly what I thought it was. It was a goofy send up of Shotoon, Brigadoon, matchy match kind of romance things. What I was a little bit surprised is the technical ability in the singing and the construction of the songs was lacking. But I think the first it's pretty good. It's better than Hacks, but that's about it. I'm not going to float it to the top.
Okay. Haven't seen it.
WandaVision I thought was an amazing pilot that then see, we're the exact opposite. I thought WandaVision got less and less interesting each week as it went on. I think the second episode, ironically, is the best one of the series, where they did the
Brady
magic
Bunch
skit.
one?
No, it was where they did the talent show and he did the magic act. And
I love that scene. That scene is so good, so charming.
It's a good part of that episode too.
Yeah, I was not a fan of the sitcom stuff that WandaVision was doing. I thought I might be, but it was just too much. It was like the first 3 episodes are all that. And then eventually you get into something that is, more what you consider Marvel standard kind of stuff. But yeah, it just wasn't doing it for me.
What's that add up to then?
I think it wouldn't go any higher for me, but...
really? Not even above Hacks? You just hated that shit then.
Yeah, it just didn't... Man, I thought I was going to like it. It just was too much too soon for that. Like they never... It just took them so long to get to anything I viewed as relevant in that show.
Man, Mayor of Easttown...
I didn't see this.
I thought the pilot was pretty good, and I'm like, you know what, gender bent True Detective, I'm in for it. I think I'm super into it. Something held it back from getting to that level. I don't know if it's the weird accents. I don't know if it was the like almost episode by episode use of red herrings, and it didn't feel like I think the best kind of mysteries like this have information is woven throughout, and you're kind of like guessing until like the very last. But to this, it felt like very much this episode. This is the asshole. It's got to be the asshole. Oh, it turns out he's not the asshole. Next episode, this is the asshole. This has got to be the. It turns out it's not. It felt like a dinner theater murder mystery where everything was just considered in turn, and there was nothing that kind of built. There was not a lot of twists. There was a shocking thing in the middle where they blew away Evan Peters. I didn't see that coming, but I don't know. I didn't engage with this nearly as much as I wanted to. So to me, I don't hate it, but I cannot consider it for a best debut pilot. But the pilot was better. I think the show started strong and got weaker as it went. So I guess float it. Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I saw 2 episodes of this, I think, and did not like it.
I thought the pilot was pretty interesting and like going with like a very white Nazi poster boy looking Captain America when you had
it's an interesting idea there.
The Falcon in the offing, and that was Cap's handpicked successor, and him like there was something interesting about like the federal government being like, this is we should really retire this, make a museum, and him being like, that I don't know if I can live up to Captain America's ideals, and like, yeah, here's the shield, and then right away, hey, we found a blue-eyed blonde guy. Turns out Captain America's been waiting in the wings the whole time, and he's got a sidearm. I'm like, oh, this is some interesting shit. But then it just like it does the Marvel thing where like it does this big flabby middle where
shrimp
they were trying
and.
Yeah, it's like, well, we got to get Elaine from Seinfeld in here and introduced as like we got to get all these other kind of shits, and we need to do something to this blonde Steve Rogers fake guy. So like, like to me, this guy needed to go when he took Cap's shield and beat someone to death with it. Like like blood cover, like you can't redeem that character, and they kind of ended up with kind of like, oh, anyone can make a mistake, and no, this is a terrible. This is I'm to the bottom. To the fucking bottom.
All right. Ooh, I see a good one at the bottom there.
Down. I'm tired of it. Okay, let me order this list, by the way. Invincible. You didn't see the whole thing.
I saw the pilot and the last episode. So
that's a pilot where it's like I was kind of crossed arms. I'm like, because I didn't want to watch it. I'm like, man, I already got The Boys. This seems like why do you want to watch this cartoon superhero thing?
Yeah, who needs this when you got The Boys?
Yeah, you got an X-rated fun Boys, and it kind of outboyed The Boys in this first episode, and did something so shocking. Like how in the world can this thing play out? And pretty good coming of age story, lots of good stuff in there. You know, if you're watching this with your teenagers, lots of good interesting dynamics. I think that between his peer group and his parents, I think are interesting to discuss. I loved it. I
like the twist. Like Homelander, you know, in The Boys is just an evil fuck, and you see that from the beginning. This kind of rolls out some information about the main character in a different kind of way, and it's interesting. And with the twist when it does come is there's kind of more to it than just like, oh, you know, this Homelander guy is evil. I found it really impressive, and the way, you know, I didn't really need to see the middle. I felt I'm sure it adds color and context for a lot of things, but
it does, sure.
But I felt like all the context I needed was kind of in the first and last episodes. So yeah, this was a pretty strong pilot for me, certainly.
Take it to the top,
and if I can count it as a debut, then yeah, it can go to the top for now, for sure.
How about Loki? I kind of to top with it too.
The best of the Marvel stuff, although it was not the best show I've watched all year. I'll tell you that much, and definitely not the best debut I saw this year either.
I think we need to take it to the top. There's a lot of daylight between it and the next couple. To the top. It means to the top, Aaron. What if?
Fucking top. I didn't see this.
What If is fine. It's a 30-minute. It's exactly what the What If comic book is, which is something you pick up at the dime store when you see something interesting on the cover. I watched about 2/3 of this. I didn't finish it. It looks like surprisingly it's going to be a big part. Like I did watch the evil Doctor Strange What If, and it looks like they're building on a lot of that connective tissue in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which is going to be interesting to see how they integrate that stuff. Because like it feels like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is the first Marvel movie that is standing on the shoulders of both WandaVision and Marvel's What If. Like, I think people are going to be pretty fucking lost. But maybe not, because, like, you know, the Red Witch had lost Vision and the Infinity War, and she was kind of like in a depressed... So maybe seeing her depressed and shacked up in the middle of nowhere and investigating deep things of magic is... I don't know. I'm curious to see, but, like, yeah, What If is fine. It's whatever.
Squid Game?
I didn't think much of the... To me, it was the second episode, and I still haven't finished the series, but to me, it's the second episode that hooked me, where they let him go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be some schlocky, low budget kind of torture porn thing. Well, it is, but it's also going to have some interesting psychological things and things to say.
And it does. It says them. I'm not an expert on Korean culture and Korean society, so I don't know how to feel about what it says. But I mean, I found it engaging. It was more than just its premise of like a bloody, violent kind of game show. So I'll give it that. It certainly wasn't the best thing I saw this year, but for now, it should probably go to the top.
Okay. Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass was not as good as its pilot episode. I'll put it that. But it wasn't a bad show for spooky season. Some people really like the monologues in this show, and if you're that, and if you really like, if these are the first. If you're in your 20s and some of these like thoughts on religion and existentialism like really flipped your lid, I can see this being a foundational show for you. I've thought about this stuff a lot, so it seemed kind of dumb to me. Boy, it did have a moment though. It did have a moment or two that were pretty fucking good. I'm thinking about the moment. Someone spontaneously combusts on a boat. But to me, this feels like this is right there in the What If, where it's just kind of like, you know, it's good to see something from the Haunt on Hill House or whatever the hell. It's good to see him still doing spooky stuff, but this not nearly as good as The Haunting of Hill House in my mind.
When is the last time before this year? Because I've seen 2 spontaneous combustions. Well, I've heard of 2 spontaneous combustions in television this year. When is the last time before that you had spotted a spontaneous combustion?
It's
Decades?
been a minute, man. It's been a minute. Yeah.
What is it about last year that are people just like so fed up with everything and just like, I'm gonna fucking explode if any more happens?
Well, where did the spontaneous combustion
London.
come from? Oh, okay. Well, that was like 6 years ago too. That I forgot about that.
Oh, true. Yeah. But I guess I just engaged with 2 spontaneous combustions this year.
And the spontaneous combustion in terms of Midnight Mass makes a lot of sense. To put it mildly. Okay, the Book of Boba Fett. Can we send that shit? Because that was just a terrible pilot.
To the bottom.
A terrible debut.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
The pilot walking around in the desert for 15 minutes was stupid. I hated it.
Yeah, the second one actually built on that, but like that should have just been...
Second episode was much better. Second episode was actually really good.
They should have just released an hour and a half first episode, I think, on that one. Hawkeye was a hell of a lot of fun. I would never have watched this had it not come out in Christmas time and been explicitly connected to Christmas. But Hawkeye doing some kind of like Marvel on Netflix style street level crime syndicate, trying to put a cap on Clint's, murder spree he went on after his family died and he took up the mantle of that whatever murder ninja he became. I like Florence Pugh coming in and being the White Widow. I liked her interacting with the young Hawkeye. I kind of hated her trying to do something deep with Clint about Natasha. But it's good. It hits you right up. It's got the Christmas. It's got Hawkeye gearing up to celebrate Christmas with his family. Talking about their traditions with all the lights up. There's Christmas music throughout. Some of the action sequences are scored to like really good Christmas. This music, it's fun, man. I'll send it to the top. Fuck it.
All right. Could have just moved Yellow Jackets with it as a pair because
Yellow Jackets to the top. And I think that completes where we're at. Okay. Yeah. I think this is going to be pretty easy. Yellow Jackets over Hawkeye. Yellow Jackets wins.
Yeah. Over Squid Game
over Yellow Jackets. Better than Hawkeye. Are you going to put it? Because I
haven't seen Hawkeye.
I haven't seen Squid Game.
Squid Game's not going to hit the top 5. I guarantee it. So
I don't think Hawkeye will either. So let's leave it there. Loki, not as good as Yellow Jackets, but at number 2.
Sure. Yeah.
Invincible. Oh, wait. What the fuck just happened? How did that even happen? Delete?
How did that happen?
I don't know, man. Google Docs. Invincible. I think not as good as Yellow Jackets, but better than Loki.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not clearly better than Loki either. I think I prefer it because it's much more even.
I could pick out 2 Loki episodes that are like really fucking good and compare it to Invincible, but good. Right. Like
the last 2. The last 2 episodes that Loki felt like a Marvel show that finally got it. Like I'm going to consistently build momentum and spectacle until it peaks and climaxes right where you want it to be, instead of just the Captain Winter Falcon is kind of like, well, we got to have an action scene in every, it feels you feel like Walking Dead perfunctory zombie attacks at time.
Right.
Reservation Dogs.
I think it's got to go up. I really enjoyed it.
Number 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I think so too. Foundation to the top?
Ooh, you're going to have a real fight, Yellow Jackets and Foundation here, because I think those are our number 1 and 2. But I could be convinced on either of those being to the top. Actually, no, you know what? I think Yellow Jackets might take this.
You might be right
for me, because Foundation does miss on some pistons are misfiring, right? Like,
yes,
it's not perfect. Yes. Yellow Jackets, I find it really hard to find a flaw in Yellow Jackets. I think it's
all right. I think Yellow Jackets.
Once I got over the fact that like, okay, Yellow Jackets is not going to give me exactly what I thought it was going to give me right away, because when you see that opening scene in Yellow Jackets, I'm like, fuck, this is going to be balls to the wall crazy the entire time. I'm going to get to feral soccer team out in the woods, just going fucking bananas. Episode 3 is going to be that. I had to settle in and say, okay, it's not going to be that fast paced. But what I am getting week to week is consistently good, consistently interesting, and it's always rolling out another layer. The dynamics between all these kids are really working. The dynamics between the young kids and the adults are just perfect. Yellow Jackets is a very good show, and I struggle to think, like, where did it misfire at all?
I thought before the final act got going of Yellow Jackets, it got a little lethargic for me. It got a little bit samey. But here, the thing with Foundation, in my mind, Foundation had a third to half of some episodes be something that was messy and didn't work.
Right. And the other half was awesome and really.
But the highs of Foundation were incredibly high.
Yeah. And the audacity of Foundation is just like off the charts,
like
right?
Fundamentally more so, like, but man, we might have to come back and revisit that.
Yeah, those two. In my mind, Yellow Jackets is probably going to be number 1 here, but like I said, open to discussion.
And then I don't know.
I feel like that list is shaping up.
Yeah, seems to me like probably Mayor of Easttown is bad. I mean, I think it's better than Schmigadoon. If I'm just talking absolute, and Schmigadoon's a silly Apple TV comedy, musical comedy. What If is better than Hacks, I think. Midnight Mass is not bad. It's better than Schmigadoon. Tell me if you want to disagree with any of these things.
I mean, I haven't seen half of these, so.
That's one. Yeah. So I feel like we got a good top. Is there anything in the top 10 you disagree with?
No. I mean, I wouldn't
feel bad recommending people. I wouldn't feel bad I think we need to, like, Foundation. It helps if you're a fucking nerd that loves science fiction.
You have to be. I think you have to be a nerd.
Because I think if you are not a giant nerd, there might be some things that are a little bit in the same way that, like, there's honestly some Book of Boba Fett shit going on where it just didn't quite connect. They didn't quite have the character beats. They didn't quite have the writing. They didn't quite have, and I think there's all, explanations for that. And this is a very, very, very hard story to tell correctly.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you don't look at the concept of a clone dynasty and immediately go, oh shit, that is so full of possibility.
Yes.
And you kind of need to be a nerd to do that, then you're not going to like the show nearly as much.
That's the thing. There's so many brilliant structural things about, like, they saw this problem of, like, how do you tell the story that's going to take place over thousands of years? Mm-hmm. How do you have a consistent antagonist, protagonist, and all that? And the protagonist kind of came for free a little bit. But the antagonist question is a novel solution, and it's goddamn interesting. Like, that could have been a standalone Asimov story, just the genetic dynasty of Cleon.
For sure.
Emperor Cleon. Yeah, and man, like, I'll say this too. Their jump drive technology, that is a contribution to the canon of science fiction visuals. Yeah. I've seen a million different ways you can make a jump to hyperspace. Creating a black hole in the middle of a starship and just ripping a hole right then and there, like... Mm-hmm. It felt powerful and cool. I like it. I like it a lot. I think our top 5 is solid.
What do you think about Yellow Jackets to the top? I will say this: our drama category has Yellow Jackets over Foundation season 1.
Well, that makes sense because I think it's a better drama, but is it a better debut pilot?
They're both debuts. I mean, this is a level playing field in that regard, right? Yellow Jackets doesn't have the missteps that Foundation does. I I agree. It's not quite as audacious. It's not as hard of a story to tell, but it tells it almost flawlessly.
What about and I was gonna say, like, you just let's take it to the pilot. I thought Foundation had a very strong pilot.
Yeah, it does. Harry's trial.
But Yellow Jackets did too. Like the 80s or the 90s nostalgia, high school nostalgia, and then it hits you with running through the woods screaming cannibalism. You know, like that's a pretty fucking good hook. Yeah, I think that's probably right.
It's not night and day, right? It's not like, oh, Foundation sucks and Yellow Jackets is amazing. It's just, boy, they're both awesome. Foundation just, has a flabby half to it.
Yeah. Flabby third, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Gale's stuff wasn't as flabby as the stuff that has happened on Terminus. So
yeah, and I'm not even that anti-Terminus. Just a couple things. When I hear Goyer say that they got a better idea of the demographics, but I hope that means that they're going to stop trying to shoehorn action scenes, because I think a lot of what made Terminus tedious is having to stage big action scenes around the Huntress and the Warden, and instead of using that to tell a better, more compelling story with more fleshed out characters. I hope that they mean that. I hope they don't mean like, oh, actually, it turns out just 18 to 24, and we're going to like take the action lever and just jam it to full on. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that a lot of it was down to coronavirus, just the disruptions of that whole thing happening in the middle of production.
Do we want to try to because I've got about 15, 20 minutes. Do we want to try to get through the biggest miss?
Sure. This should be easy.
I think we can get through here.
This should be easy.
Okay. Here's the first top two: The White Lotus and Succession. Dramedies in HBO Max category that are about rich assholes. And to the top. Succession to the top. White Lotus, I don't know.
I remember a lot of people saying it was good. But yeah, how many people actually watched that? I'm not sure.
Okay. The thing is like, I think when people say biggest miss, and this is going to be a big community category, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they don't pay attention to both parts. It's like, what did Bald Move cover and not cover that they would have done a good job on? I'm really not convinced we would have done a good job on Succession or White Lotus, because I think it would just be me like, why do I care? Why do I care? Why these people should all go to therapy. They should all go to like individual therapy.
They should quit their fucking jobs. They should go into therapy. They should,
Yes, they should go to therapy. They should go into couples therapy. They should go into family cancel. They should go into addiction rehab. They should just get their shit fixed.
Do your desert meditation retreat for 4 months, whatever you got to do, because you got the money to do it.
Like when Mayor of Easttown is like pounding back brewskis and chain smoking vape and just trying to and fucking Evan Peterson Peters just to feel something. Yeah. Like I get that she can't afford therapy.
Yeah,
and she's got a hard life and a hard job.
And she's stuck in that position. Yeah.
Yeah. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Right. I don't know. Maybe that's the Shakespearean Greek tragedy aspect of it. But like,
I just have no sympathy for the devil. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're half God, Hercules. Tell me how hard your life is. You're infinitely strong. Oh, man, that must be tough. All right. Maid. Margaret Qualley.
The fuck is this? I know who Margaret Qualley is.
So she's Jill from The Leftovers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she plays like this young mother who is stuck on the welfare, like in that welfare bubble where it's like if she makes a little too much money this week, she gets her food stamps taken away, but she can't afford a safe place to live. I think the actor is really good, and I would like to see more of her. I haven't seen much of her in anything except for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where she plays, a weirdo teenager, and The Leftovers, where she also plays a weirdo teenager. And I think the socioeconomic stuff would have been interesting to talk about. Because I think this is what people, this is the type of thing that might, and again, I haven't seen it, but I feel like this is the type of thing that people would make use of. It's like, if it can change people's idea of like, well, what is it like to be poor and on welfare? What is it like to get the handouts? What is it like to get to be the lucky one? You know, how hard is it? What is the experience of applying for it and getting, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's? And I don't know, because I think that Americans have a wrong idea of how these programs work and the types of people that are on them.
Sure.
So I think it's a missed opportunity for
who the hell saw this?
I don't know. It got on a lot of people's top 10, top 20 lists.
Yeah, like
because it's really good. On top of that,
what person who isn't in the industry making top 20 lists saw this show? Like I literally never heard anyone say anything about Made.
Underground Railroad.
That's another one I didn't hear talked about.
I don't know how to. This again seems right up my alley. I like learning more stuff about things I don't know much about that contributed to the foundations of my country, and I feel like this fits the bill. But I didn't see it. I don't know much about it.
Who made this list?
I can't commentate it, huh?
Who made this list? Did the audience make the list?
No. We've got the audience list as a separate thing. No, I made this by going through like some top 40 lists and like finding things that I didn't recognize, but I had heard of and looked interesting. That I think we done a good job on.
Yeah.
What about Squid Games? Is that like the quintessential bald move? Who done it? Puzzle box.
It could have been fun to talk about. There isn't like a ton of meat there, like especially in the middle. It's not like, oh, we can talk about the societal ills in Korea and all that stuff. Nah, there's not a ton of that. It kind of bookends the series with that stuff, but then in the middle there's a lot of like, oh, what's going to happen next sort of things. And there is this story with like, you know, everybody's wearing masks in that show, and so there's a little bit of like, who are these people, you know, trying to guess the identities and the source of the power here. So yeah, I think it would have been fun to talk about, certainly, but it's a Netflix show and it was all released at the same time, and it's just going to be a one and done thing for us. So is this a huge miss? It was very popular. I think we should have probably watched it and done a single podcast about it, like maybe an Off the Clock or something. And that would have been enough. But yeah, I think it's a bigger miss than Made or Underground Railroad, which no one has ever heard of.
Well, but the thing is like, I don't know, like, would I rather have, I guess, more traffic, or would I rather have something that is super interesting to talk about? And that's where
I've literally never heard of those other two shows. So like, how can they be a big miss if we haven't even, if no one is talking about them?
Well, but like, what does that even mean? You don't watch commercials. So like,
but I hear about shit that comes out all the time. Like, I watch trailers at movies. I think neither of these, our Discord is constantly showing us shit that's coming out. Like, yeah, I hear about shit that's coming out all the time, and these did not even make it to, ooh, that's interesting kind of levels.
What about King Richard? The only reason I think this is interesting is because the Williams sisters was raised by their father as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was super interested to see how, if at all, they dealt with the religious aspect. Because I always think famous Jehovah's Witnesses are fucking mind-blowing. Prince was a Jehovah's Witness towards the end of his life. Michael Jackson was a devoted Jehovah's Witness at the start of his life.
His family, I think, was. Yeah.
Like, to me, that's like saying you're a committed Roman Catholic Satanist. Like, it just does. Those are things that don't, like, fame and ambition and money just do not go with the witness life. So like, I think that stuff is fascinating, and I don't know.
Will Smith got nominated for an Academy Award for this movie, and won some other awards. Yeah, no, I think it was a pretty big miss. I think that'd have been a
good first run bald. It was what happened? Did this come out the same time when something else came out? It had to have, because I can't imagine we would have not covered it. It came out on HBO Max. We wouldn't have gone to the theaters. It was a first run.
I want to say it was around Christmas time, and we were just too fucking busy.
That could have been done it too. I wouldn't mind doing a catch up on this for a prestige coming up, because I think I would like to see it. Mayor of Easttown, again, it's a gender bent True Detective kind of thing, but I think I would have been bitching about it. So like
people were actually talking about
this is another one that needs to go higher if you want to use your like heard of categorization.
Yeah.
So I guess you're wanting to put both of these above. But like I don't know easily. That we would have done a good job covering Mayor of Easttown. We might have just been like bitching about how dumb we were finding it. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't see it.
And then Dope Sick. This is a Hulu show. Surely you've seen this because it's all over Hulu.
I've seen people talking about it. I haven't actually seen the show, but
this is
about the Purdue Pharma opioid.
Yeah, heroin. The pushing scandal or not heroin. Opioid crisis. I everything I said about Made goes like triple for that. So did we just fuck around and make a good biggest miss? Like Succession is the one I hear all the fucking about. The thing about Succession and White Lotus, I still don't think you would like the show that we did do on it. Like you're betting that against my better judgment. And keep in mind, Jim's seen the first. I don't know why I always get blamed for not being the one covering this when Jim's seen the first season and said meh.
Yeah, I thought it was meh. But I've also heard the show has changed a bit, but.
It could be, and everyone like Alan Sepinwall, that was one of the ones I was the I don't know, what do you call the opposite of feathers holding? There's the one, a few sticks up my ass I was holding on to, is that Alan Sepinwall, my personal favorite TV reviewer, is kind of like, I don't understand. I don't want to fuck, I've seen blah, 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 and I'd fuck it. But he got like super into it in the third season. I really don't want to watch it. I really don't.
Well, then don't. Don't. It's going to be season 4 next time. Who cares? We missed the boat on it. Whatever.
I know. Hopefully, maybe.
Plenty of other shows.
I just feel like but that's the thing. It's like sometimes it happens, man. Like I got bullied into watching Americans and ended up hating it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
I liked it,
think about. Everyone can think of something in their life that's well regarded and you hate, right? Like it just sucks when that happens with us.
Yeah. Succession's easily number 1 though, based on how much people wanted us to cover it and how little interest we had.
How about that? Ooh, with maybe King Richard over. What do you think about? I just did a bunch of we got Succession up front, Mayor of Easttown, because that did get decent numbers, not huge numbers, but decent numbers, and people clamored for it. White Lotus, which is essentially Succession. I think that's a funnier, more exotic Succession.
Yeah.
Squid Games, because that did for about a month, about 6 to 8 weeks, took over the internet, and I wish we could have gotten in and did some coverage of that.
Would have been a one and done, but yes, yeah.
King Richard for the reasons we mentioned, and then Dope Sick made the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
All right.
That top 5 is good.
I think we got a good top 5 here, and I think I finally run out of time, so we'll leave it there. Check out the ceremony later on. Well, at the same time, whatever. You know what this is. Deliberations. Baldies. Gotta have them. See ya.